Hi, my name is Jim, and this is my cancer story. Part one. So, I teach on, or I cook on ships, and on my month off, I teach scuba diving. I'm over in the Philippines testing out a product I invented for scuba diving that turns a two-handed operation into a one-handed operation for disconnecting your power inflator. Scuba divers know what I'm talking about. So, I'm meeting my scuba instructor, dive buddy over there, diving with Ivan. He's an awesome instructor. If you ever want to learn anything about scuba diving, go to the Philippines, have a blast. He looks at me, when we meet, and he says, "Wow, Jim, man, check out your skin. It's all yellow." And I said, "Yeah, my pee's all dark." He goes, "Yeah, dude, you got jaundice. You have to go to the hospital." So I'm in the Manila area, and I go to um, a hospital in Quezon City, and I have to go to a specialist. Then I go to a different part of the Philippines, and I see another doctor, go to another specialist, and then I go to another specialist, get more stuff done. They can't find out what's wrong with me. Finally, I get an MRI. It comes back that I have cholangiocarcinoma, which is bile duct cancer. The bile duct is a little tube that goes from your liver into your digestive system, carrying bile that's essential for digestion. There was a tumor in that tube that clogged it. And you only have a few weeks to live with no bile. So they're going to put a stent in right next to that tube, and then the bile will go through that stent, and everything will be fine. I meet the doctor. He explains everything to me. He's very realistic, not very positive. He says, "Jim, palliative care is in your future, and 80% of the people in this, it's malignant, and there's nothing they can do." And then he says, "How's your faith, Jim?" And I said, "Oh, my faith, it's rock solid, man, unstoppable." And he goes, "Okay, you're not afraid of dying?" I said, "No, not at all, doc." And he goes, "Can we pray?" And I said, "Sure." And I'm thinking, man, that's the first time a doctor ever said that. But I am in the Philippines; it's a pretty religious place. So he prays on me, and that was good. And then I look at him, I say, "Doc, it's all good, man. I'm not ashamed to call God my master. I just hope God's not ashamed to call me loyal servant when that day comes." So it's all good. So the next day he does the procedure on me, and it doesn't work. I get pancreatitis. I'm in the hospital for a few days. I get ambulance to another hospital. Now I'm back in Manila. I get the stent removed and replaced by a different one. And this doctor is knows all kinds of stuff about everything. And he says, "Here's the deal, Jim. We get a team together, and we work on you here. It'll take a couple months, or you go back to Canada, and you get a team that pretty much does the same thing. You have an oncologist, a radiologist, a surgeon, an anesthetist, or whatever, and a nutritionist, and blah blah blah." So I say, "Okay, I'll go back to Canada." And he says, "Yeah, but you can't go back by yourself. You need someone to come and get you." And that's my brother Bill. So he flies from Colorado to Manila, wheelchairs me back to Canada. His wife meets us along the way, and they say goodbye to me in Toronto. They were a great help. And then I go back to Newfoundland, Canada, where I have family. My sister helps me so much better, or she's as important to my recovery as any doctor. You need everything, and she's part of everything. So here I am back in Newfoundland, and I've got cancer. I've got a bunch of infections, and I'm not doing good at all. And then I finally get on my first bit of chemo, and it doesn't work. My cancer numbers go down in my blood, but my tumor got bigger. I got second bit of chemo, Foxfol, and I am taking also ivermectin and fenbendazole, and I'm trying to be on the keto diet, but I'm not telling anybody. The oncologist said I responded very well to the chemotherapy. And I'm thinking, yeah, because I'm taking Fenben and ivermectin and doing the keto. Anyway, originally they said my tumor was too big to operate. So, but now they said they can. I meet the surgeon for the second time, and he explains everything about the surgery. And then I say, Doc, I don't want to get the surgery. I'm on the Fenben and the ivermectin, and I want to postpone it for a month. I'm not saying no to surgery. I'm just saying let's give these pills a chance. And he was very, very cooperative and supportive. He said, no problem, Jim, whatever you want, man. You just say it. So I postponed it for a month, but that appointment got screwed up, and now it's 3 months. So if the chemo didn't work and the Fenben and the ivermectin did, then I'm going to be good. If the chemo did work and the pills didn't, well, I might be in a bit of trouble come May 28th. But I don't feel like I'm sick. I don't look sick. Nobody thinks I'm sick. And, I'm pretty strong. I have some weak moments, but I'm pretty good. So what happens May 28th? My tumor's bigger, my tumor's smaller. If my tumor's bigger, I go back on chemo, and I stick with the Fenben and ivermectin and the keto diet because that's what I was on the first time. Maybe it's the combination that's necessary. If my tumor's smaller, it's just the ivermectin and the Fenben and the keto, not the chemo. So if I say that to anybody, blah, 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 science, blah, 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 that's just, theory, and there's nothing. And I'm like, what do you mean theory? What do you mean no science? Whatever. What about reality? How come reality doesn't matter? How come science that says ivermectin doesn't work, or we don't know if it does, gets more credibility than someone that says, hey, I was supposed to die, or I had cancer and now I don't? What's wrong with that? How come credibility is second, or how come reality is second fiddle to science? How many thousands of people were sent home to die because radiation and immunotherapy and chemo didn't work, and they took Fenben and ivermectin, the keto diet, DMSO, soursop, baking soda, all kinds of things. Those people are still alive. That's reality. And it gets discounted because it's not science. No one does the science. The people that are saying that's not science are the people that will lose a fortune if ivermectin starts getting passed out to cure cancer. Duh. There's people now curing cancer. Dr. Makis in Alberta, the Ivermectin Cancer Clinic. Yeah, look Dr. Makis up. Look up Dr. Seafright in Boston. The keto diet, starving cancer cells. And what's wrong with starving a cancer cell and then zapping it with some chemo? Some chemo that doesn't hurt you so much, or some targeted radiation or something like that. I'm not against chemo, but I'm against the only thing that will cure you is what Big Pharma says. And we'd rather just see you die in hospice than trying to give you ivermectin to cure you, because that's what Big Pharma will gladly do. Don't try that. You'll die. Wait, even if you don't. Big Pharma is more afraid of ivermectin curing people than ivermectin hurting people. Guaranteed. So let's deal with reality. And when some scientist looks at the reality of this person's not dead, look at the science behind that and try to figure that out. Canada, you 338 people in parliament running the country, how come you haven't made ivermectin in all the clinical trials and spend tens of millions of dollars to save billions that you spend on healthcare for cancer patients? The 338, none of them are going to stand up and say that. You know why? Because they get money from Big Pharma. The first person that stands up and says ivermectin should have trials because it could be a cure for cancer and Canada will save billions, that person will not get elected ever again. So that's why that won't happen. So don't rely on the government to save you. Governments, man, you need protection from the government. The government is there to hurt you. Anyway, back to reality. Let's back up some reality with some science and watch what happens after May 28th, when my tumor's smaller, you think this was a lot of yada, yada, yada.